Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chicks and Salsa. How's everyone doing? How's your week going, ladies?
Good. How about y'all? Yours, Candy? Sorry, I think I
No, that's
overspoke you.
okay. It's all good. It's all good. It's going good. We've had it's an exciting time in sports. We've had a lot of things happening and stuff
Right.
like that. I mean, we could probably say that about almost all the time, but we know the end of March Madness, ended, so
Right.
that's all good.
So
Yes,
more.
absolutely. So, like, I know we had, okay, just even the city of Dallas had some crazy stuff going on, like, had an amount of stuff going on. Like, they had the Rangers game, opening games. Taylor Swift was there. The Final Four was there. The championship was there. Like, it's a busy time of year, even without having football.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, let's face it, South Florida was
Taylor
on
Swift.
Saturday. We were up high, with Miami in the Final Four
Right.
and FAU, two teams that had never made it before, and Miami's Elite Eight even made it. So that we were excited with
Right.
all of that, and then Miami opening day and all of that good stuff.
Oh, Candy, I was not excited about the
I know,
Miami Elite Eight.
I know. But it was the first
I saw
time
some of
that
your comments, Megan.
women and men made the Elite Eight.
I will say though that I really like their coach though. Like he's such a nice guy, and he gives a great interview. That was something that I noticed just now since I've gotten into media. I guess you probably pay attention to that a little bit more. Like, oh, okay, this person is they're nice and communicative and personable with media. So I just really enjoyed him. So even though while his team really put my team out, uh,
Mm-hmm. I know.
like I felt like he was a nice guy.
Yeah, yeah. It's exciting, It's spring break
Right.
time down here, so there's still like
Right.
people coming down here visiting. The snowbirds haven't left.
Right, right. All
Are
right.
you
So,
sure? Because
speaking
traffic
of,
was really bad in Charlotte today.
they were all trying to go get through North Carolina.
I'm just saying.
Well,
I'll go
speaking of
north from Florida, go
football,
to Carolina.
right. Well, speaking of football, we heard some news earlier today. Jen, you want to run us through it?
Sure. So, Adam, Carrie is not with us tonight. She's having a family thing. But she shared earlier with us that the Arizona Cardinals owner, Michael Bidwell, is being accused of gross misconduct, including cheating, discrimination, harassment, and an arbitration claim filed today by former
Okay.
Cardinals exec Terry McDonough to NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. And he maintains that both he and former head coach Steve Wilkes were left no choice but to follow Bidwell's plan to use burner phones to communicate with the former Arizona general manager Steve Keim, while Keim was serving a 5-week suspension after pleading guilty to extreme DWI in Arizona. Um,
Okay.
and McDonough says that he still has the phone, which contains the evidence of the cheating scandal, as well as documentation and eyewitness testimony on each item presented in the petition. Dude
Okay.
came with receipts.
So when they say cheating, like what's the extent of that? That's where my question marks go up. Is like, so what exactly did they do?
That was a really bad year. So I happen to remember this because I'm a huge Steve Wilkes fan. I love the
Right.
Carolina Panthers. And anybody who's a football fan should truly like Steve Wilkes, and Steve Smith too, but wrong dude, wrong
Right.
Steve. Um, but Steve was brought in as their head coach. He was our DC the year before. He was brought in as their head coach after the draft, after free agency ended. He had no choice in his team. He had little choice in his coaching staff, actually. And so let me look up what is I think it was like he won 3 games. Steve
Oh,
Wilkes, Cardinals record. It was 3 wins and 13 losses in 1 year. But the man had his hands were tied. So for this to come out,
so how are they cheating then? I guess that's what I'm like. Did he lose intentionally? Is that
He
what
was
you're
told to, and then the players were probably told to too. But it makes sense since he
saying? Okay.
wasn't given really a big choice on his coaching staff. So
Right.
Steve Wilkes is a man of honor and integrity, and I will say that like that's just who he is. So I don't think he himself was cheating, but I think the directive was to cheat, and you get fired when you don't cheat. Look at Ron, or like even cheat to lose.
Right.
Like that's why Pete Rose got in
Okay.
trouble.
Right.
So I don't think it was a gambling thing, but I don't know what it was, but it makes sense why Steve Wilkes joined Brian Flores' lawsuit. Um,
Oh, okay. Okay.
because if McDonough has this burner phone that he was given, pretty sure Wilkes was too. And why are we using burner phones?
So you can't trace
Um.
things.
Right. I was about to say, so you wouldn't be traced who you were talking to.
So like, okay, and this I don't know. Y'all may know this. Does the NFL like go over the cell phone records for each team and
It,
each exec?
it
It
I don't
can.
think so, but it can end up in court. I mean, look at what happened with Tom Brady and all that. Like, it did end up going to court for them to make their decision. So I know they can somehow get involved like that.
Well, and look at
Right.
like Gruden and all the emails, and I mean,
Right. Right.
you know,
Yeah. And
Okay.
so
Well,
it's just pretty deep, and this just came out this afternoon. So thanks for letting me touch on that, ladies.
it's still developing. I'm sure we'll hear
Yeah.
more exactly about what exactly happened. Okay, so we had a very exciting weekend in both Final Fours in the men's and the women's. Let's talk women's first a little bit. South Carolina ended up getting knocked out Friday night by the Iowa ladies. Now, this was a shocking game for me, not just on the fact that it was a weird performance for me, in my opinion, for South Carolina. They just looked stunned. They didn't adjust well. It was pretty tied up or close to tied up going into the half, and so my thought was, okay, well, they're going to go to half. Dawn's going to talk to them. They're going to make the adjustments they need, and it's going to be kind of similar to that matchup that they had with Maryland. Like Maryland played them really well that first half. They came out, adjusted, and then just kind of dominated. And that's kind of what I expected. And then Iowa just stepped up that defense. And while Iowa is they're good defenders, they're not great defenders. Like they're not
Right.
necessarily known for going out and being like, okay, you have to handle this defense. Like South Carolina is known for having an excellent defense. That's not where Iowa is. No, they're not bad defenders, but they're just not. That's just not what they're known for. Well, they just put out a performance that was, I mean, another level in my opinion. Like they held Aaliyah to 8 points, and then even South Carolina was out rebounded. Like that's just shocking. Like they don't necessarily have the same size or the same play. Like the Iowa ladies are generally they're shooters, good mid range and 3 point shooters, as we know. They're not a whole lot of they don't get a lot of their points in the lane where South Carolina usually does get their points in the lane. So it was just a real shocking performance for me as a whole. Now, the LSU Virginia Tech game, I felt like went as expected. So,
Mhm.
thoughts on that, ladies?
you have to be impressed with Caitlin Clark on that game. She had an assist or scored every point in the fourth
Right,
quarter and like the first quarter too. I think it was most of them. So like
right,
single handedly, she really propelled them, you know, in that game.
right.
Mhm.
Definitely so. And then going to the men's final four games. Now I was going for Florida Atlantic just because I wanted to go for the underdog. So they were the lowest seeded team. They were a 9 seed team, and then they played San Diego State, which was a 5 seed team. Florida Atlantic was ahead a good portion of that game, but it was very, very close. San Diego State was like maybe within 2 or 1 pretty much the entire time. And then they hit that buzzer beater. And I don't know. I have seen some pictures from different people that said that he actually stepped out on that and it was just actually a missed call. But, water under the bridge now because the championship is over. So San Diego State hits that 3 pointer, that buzzer beater, and they end up going to the finals. And then we have the Miami UConn game. Miami, I think they played a really good game against Texas, but Texas didn't have their center in that matchup. And so I think Texas probably would have played UConn a little better than what Miami actually played them. Like I think they probably could have kept up with the tempo a little bit better because we play a fast-paced offense like that. Whereas no, I'm not saying we would have like beat UConn. I don't know that that's true, but I think it would have been a better matchup. So, but I enjoyed watching Miami in this tournament. Like they kind of came out of nowhere. They're a football school, and for them to make it this far, I thought that was pretty cool.
I thought it was cool that we had 3 first timers in the Final Four.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think FAU would have played UConn better. I'm not saying they would have won them,
Okay.
beat them either, but they play a more fast-paced, up-tempo game. I think it would have been
Right.
really interesting to see that. And FAU is a young team. There's only one senior on that team,
Okay.
and he
That's
didn't
cool.
play very much of the game. So it'll be interesting to see how many they can keep. I know Dusty May, the coach, is sought out. But he has said that he wants to stay at FAU,
Good.
That's cool.
which is surprising because FAU, it's not a basketball. I mean, their stadium is maybe 3,000. Like it's small.
Oh, right.
They don't have
Mhm.
the facilities that a lot of these other ones do. But Dusty May took a chance, and he's happy that he did. It was exciting times, exciting for them. They never really thought that they'd get that far.
Well,
So
and
I was
maybe
kind of
if they continue like having these types of runs, these postseason runs, maybe they will get better basketball facilities.
Let's hope. I mean, it's in Boca. Boca has got money in Florida. Like,
Right.
So I was actually rooting for FAU but I was doing it very quietly because I tend to jinx teams. Because I was
Oh
thinking of
no.
you and Scott because I know y'all do a lot of work with FAU.
oh yeah,
So
Right. Yeah.
I'll cheer for y'all when you aren't playing the 49ers, okay?
thanks.
So, and then the championship was last night. It did seem that that game was a little lackluster, in my opinion. I mean, San Diego State just looked gassed after the first quarter.
Mhm.
And like we talked about how UConn, they play a really fast-paced offense, and they have a ton of excellent shooters. So the score ended up being 76-59. San Diego State got close within like 6 points, 7 points, I think, there in that fourth quarter, but they just couldn't make it enough of a run to catch up with UConn. So UConn ends up getting their 5th championship. They are now 5-0 in title games. They are 10-1 in Final Four appearances, and then out of the last 6 Final Four appearances, they've gotten to the championship game 5 times.
Wow.
Right. So I mean, I guess it's safe to say that UConn has secured the probably the best basketball school, men's and women's combined.
For this season, I will concur.
No, not for the season. I mean, like amount of championships. If you add it with the ladies and the guys, they probably have the most.
Yeah, if you add them together, you may be right. Probably are actually. I think the most and men's would actually go to UCLA with 8 championships. But the caveat with that is UCLA won most of their championships. Look at me busting out basketball knowledge. Aren't you proud? While they should have been strapped because they were cheating. Huge cheating scandals. If y'all like go back into your memory bank, I know you know about it. But they've been running a clean program, so they're trying to get back on it now. But yeah.
Right. So then going back to the ladies championship game, the ladies ended up playing Iowa on Sunday night. And this was a game that was also surprising. I was surprised by LSU's offensive performance. LSU is a team that I think matches up really well with South Carolina. They both play in the lane. When I watch Angel Reese play, I feel like I'm watching Asia Wilson. Like I feel like they have very similar styles of game. They rebound a lot. LSU absolutely out rebounded Iowa. And it was a very physical game. We know that they both played very physical defense, and what were y'all's thoughts on the officiating? Because for me, that was a kind of asterisk by it, because like I wish that LSU could have, won that game without all the outside drama, not just the stuff that happened after the game, but just even within the game, the officiating, in my opinion, was terrible.
I just don't trust officials. I mean, officials are humans. They're
Right. Oh
going to
yeah.
people, whether you like it or not, whether you like the three of us and Carrie, like we're all pretty chill. We have our opinions, but we're open to other people's, thoughts, and but we all have our preferred teams.
Right.
Um, and I think officials do too, even though they're supposed to be unbiased. And I think sometimes that bias comes across.
Right.
Um, and I mean, I'm just going to go with what our buddy Jordan Long says. Officials suck. So, but they're a necessary part of the game.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
I
Like
think I think it,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it really comes down to as long as you're consistent. Like they were saying, they
yes.
kept
Right.
commenting in the men's side of it that they were really letting them play in in the last two rounds, that they weren't calling a lot of the ticky tack, you know, calls
Right.
that they had previously, that they were really letting them play. So I think as long as they're really consistent, I mean, that's my biggest gripe is not being, is a inconsistency.
Right. Like they were from the beginning of the game, they were very, like, they were calling a lot. Like Angel got into foul trouble and she ended up having to sit until the half. Caitlin got into foul trouble very early on as well. And so if that's what you're going to do, why are you not calling technical fouls on Kim Mulkey, who's walking onto the court during, like, the clock's running and she's crossing over into the line, like probably like 27
Mhm.
times, like, because she doesn't sit during the game, she stands the entire time, and she's up and down the court. So then, and also, like, refs are walking by and she's very vocal with them too as they're walking by, and she didn't get teed up at all. So if you are, now don't get me wrong, if there's a lot of people that don't like Kim's personality, and so if I guess my thought on that is, if you're going to have the attitude of like, okay, well, she's a champion, she's got this overwhelming personality, and we're going to allow her to be her. Why would you tee up Caitlin for going behind the back with the ball when, because I think if she'd have gone forward, it would have gone into her leg. Like, I didn't see any intent in that. Like, I thought she just did it behind her back because she was stepping forward when she did that. So she's stepping with her left leg as she goes forward. If she would have done that, then she either had to go either behind the back or between her legs to get the ball to the ref without it hitting her. Like, I didn't see any intent in it. Like, there was no malicious intent. I didn't see any attitude in it. And so if you're going to let this champion of a coach do her, why are you going to tee up the national player of the year when literally she didn't have an attitude about it? So it
Right.
just felt real, like you said, it felt very inconsistent. Like, if you're going to tee
Mhm.
up Caitlin for that, then you actually should have teed up Kim.
Yep.
And like honestly,
So
the
that,
Athletic, their article on it yesterday, this is their title. LSU and Iowa and women's basketball deserve better than lousy officiating and paternalistic discourse. That's the title of the article. I'm like, fire title. Like, if I could give a fire emoji, I would. But
right.
um,
And then obviously, there's been a lot of drama about what happened afterwards with Caitlin and Angel. And I think, like, I think I had quite a bit to say about this on the other shows that I've done this week already. But I think that was all pretty much silenced this afternoon, even though, because I feel like, my personal opinion is, now I don't think it shows great sportsmanship, and so necessarily, like, I feel like I'm coached a little bit different than that. But personally, the amount of people that are talking about women's basketball, I'm like, okay, well, that's entertainment. That's what you need. That's what women's basketball needs. It needs people talking about it. It needs people caring
yeah,
about these rivalries. Like, there's always going to be villains and good ones in a rivalry. And so this is what women's basketball needs. And now tons of people have reasons to, okay, so maybe now some people don't like LSU and they're going to go in and they're going to cheer for their team and they're going to show up and they're going to be passionate. And so for me personally, that's what I think is good about it. Well, Caitlin came out and she absolutely said that she had no problem with what Angel did. And so if if she supports it, and she also says she's not toning down her trash talking either. She said that's part of who she is, and people are probably surprised because or they're a little more critical when it comes from a woman instead of men. For example,
Mm-hmm.
Serena Williams, whenever she gets emotional and loud and verbal or smashes her racket, she gets criticized a ton, but we see it in the men's game all the time. So I think it was more people were surprised that it was coming from women because Caitlin also absolutely had times where she was talking trash throughout this tournament too. She and Haley Van Lith got into it in the Louisville game. So, there were times when there's players are going to get under your skin. It's just going to happen. Like that's just part of the game. And I think that, as long as Caitlin's cool with it and she's not bothered by what Angel did, then I don't think anybody else should be talking about it anymore.
Agreed. And you can't, and that was, we were talking about that somewhere, I think, or maybe on the phone, but agreed, because you can't say it's okay for Caitlin to do it because she did it too. And then say it's not okay for Angel to do it when the biggest smack talker in the league is currently selling his basketball team. I'm just saying, you can't go and say MJ, who is known to be and still is the biggest smack talker in the NBA. And he really shouldn't, especially this year, just saying.
Right. Look, Haley Van Lith and the Texas girls almost got into a brawl during this tournament after the game was over. And even after that, Haley Van Lith is like, oh no, it's nothing but respect. That's just part of the game. Like, I think that's the attitude you got to have about it. Like, it's just part of the game. Now, is it my preference? Like, if I were a coach, would I want my player to do that? Probably not. But if that's their team and that's what they choose to do, who cares? Like, they also had some other ladies. There was, I can't remember exactly which one it is there on LSU, but she waited for Caitlin before the game started, and as they were coming out, and she just wanted to tell her like how amazing she thought she was. So I don't think that's something that you need to sit there and say it's just indicative to Kim's team. I saw it in different situations from different people throughout the tournament from different teams. So let the game grow and continue to talk about it.
And you know what? Go ahead, Katie. I'm sorry. I have a lot of opinions on this. Go.
No, I was going to say is, this was the most watched women's finals ever. Everything. I love the fact that we're all talking about it now. Like you said, Megan, whether I agree with what they did, both of them, is irrelevant because we're still talking about it days after it. Right. I can remember years before, and we wouldn't even. I couldn't even remember or tell you who won the women's. I'll be the first to admit I'm not as big into basketball as you are, Megan, and that's okay. But right now, I could tell you who won the women's national championship. Right. I could tell you who won the previous year. So it's caused an awareness, which I think, and an excitement with everybody that the media is helping, I guess, feed. And I think it's good, and it's good for the game because it can only grow the game and grow excitement.
Right.
And I'll be honest.
So. And people act like they haven't seen Diana Taurasi play. That's one of the biggest trash talkers out there. Like, it's not a WNBA season if DT doesn't get ejected at least twice. So, this has been a part of women's basketball. Y'all just haven't been watching.
I mean, and people make excuses all the time for Kevin Durant, for Kyrie Irving, for X, Y, and Z, and
right. You need that rivalry. You need those entertainment values. Like, do we like Dylan Brooks and his antics? No, but we talk about him. Did people like Ron Artest? I did, but there was a lot of people that weren't Ron Artest fans.
I was in the middle.
He's crazy.
I didn't like him. I didn't dislike him. I was indifferent.
I think he just says some off the wall stuff, and I was entertained by it. But okay, so players like Bill Laimbeer,
Dennis Rodman,
right. There's plenty of people that didn't like them because they played the villain. But you know what? You knew who they were, and you talked about them.
Oh, that's sweet. Well, and I'll be honest with you. Usually, I have so much going on. You guys know this, okay? I couldn't. Well, cover your ears because you'll never forgive me. But I couldn't remember who was in the Final Four for men's, but I sure knew who was in the Final Four for women's. And let me tell you, this is
Right.
the first
Because people were
year that's
talking
ever
about it.
happened. And I heard on local radio, so the 2008 Duke Carolina game was the most highly watched and college basketball game. It still had records. The women's championship surpassed it. Like
Oh,
it
good.
surpassed last year's. I tweeted y'all,
Oh, I saw that.
but it like surpassed like last year's NBA finals with the exception of the championship game. It surpassed NFL championships or like
Right.
NFC championship, AFC championship, things
Right.
like that. Nothing's really going to surpass the Super Bowl. Let's be honest.
Oh, no, I'm not necessarily saying like I expect that, but I'm just glad that people are actually watching and paying attention. And whether I brought this up, and because I know some people don't want to talk about. I prefer not to talk about the negative because I love women's ball.
Right.
But even last year when we had all this stuff to talk about with BG, like you saw it bring a lot of the worst out in people, in my opinion. Like whether you were on either side, you know what I mean, about it. And I hate that it's one or the other side, like, because I don't feel like that's real life. Like, I feel like real life is a combination of so many different things. So you have one side, another side, and something in the middle, like, like I don't know, I hate taking sides like that. But even though it was something awful to talk about, right, viewership went up. People were watching the WNBA last year. So I feel like them talking about BG was probably a result of that.
Yeah. And I was actually having a conversation at work today. Megan, you've taught me a lot. I have to give you props, my friend. And then Candy, we're going to go to your topic in a second too. But we were talking at work today, and I thought they were talking WNBA. I thought they were talking the national championship. And so then that led into a conversation again about NIL and about what WNBA players wanting more money. And it was like, no, that's the misunderstanding. The WNBA wants the same per capita, which
Right,
is fair.
It's percent.
It was like, but they're not like one player gets $30 million. That's pretty much going to sink the WNBA. I was like,
they make 42 million. Like, and I'm not sure what the numbers were last year. That was the season before. So,
right.
But okay, go ahead, Candy.
But yeah, Candy, go into your topic because today or this week is what week, Candy?
It is the start of baseball season.
Right.
Most of the teams started last week, Thursday. I think this was the first time that they all started at the same time. And yeah, they started. And then a lot of teams are having their home openers this week if they weren't opening last week.
Right.
But they've commented, and there's been big changes in some of the rules this year. And they're trying to speed up the game because they know that the young crowd, they like TikTok. They like 15-second videos. They don't like long things. Right. They don't like baseball games that take 3, 4, 5 hours. So they're trying to shorten up the game. Whether you like the rule changes or not, they're here for now. I mean, there's a rule now where the pitcher can only step off the mound twice to throw it back to first to kind of brush them back. Right. And so we're seeing a lot more steals. They're saying now the average length of a game is 30 minutes less than it was last year already. So they are doing what they're trying to do. They're accomplishing, the shift rule. You can no longer see, the fielders all on one side because, this guy always hits to the right side or this guy always hits to the left side. Let's put everybody over there. So I think
the Royals already figured out how to cheat the no shift rule.
Who's gonna find a way?
Oh, and then on the stolen bases, it was like in opening weekend, I think there was 24 stolen bases on opening day. This year it was 79. So that's how much of a difference it was.
Wow.
From those rule changes.
Well, and today Manny Machado was thrown out of a game because he was called out on strikes because the pitch clock, because they have to pitch it with so long, and he said he was trying to take a timeout, but he didn't get it. So they're really trying to move the game along. For all of you fans that aren't fans, maybe you will be now.
Right, definitely. So, I mean, I enjoy it, but it can go forever. I have been at games where we're in overtime. It's 13th inning. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, and with somebody in this dang game.
It took countless games to go to, but I finally found the one area for the Charlotte Knights that I can go and watch a whole game. Alton has
Why
to
is
pay a
that?
pretty penny for it. Charlotte gets
Oh,
really hot. I mean, you're in
oh, I
Texas,
know, I
you're in
understand.
Florida, you get it.
Oh,
So
for
yeah,
sure.
he's got to pony up for like the clubhouse level.
All right, I'm going to a game with y'all.
Come on, baby.
Oh, you're funny. You're funny.
I told
All
her,
right, well, I guess.
The one thing I don't know, and I haven't figured this out, is why Major League Baseball in the beginning of the season doesn't schedule more games in the warmer weather climates or in places that have domes. Because
Right,
you've seen how many games could be canceled or postponed, and it's like, don't start out the season that way.
yeah,
right, yeah,
But
yeah,
that's only
definitely so.
us smart thinking.
Well,
exactly.
we have a dome this year. We have air conditioning. I'm so happy.
Woohoo! See, now you can go and
Right,
watch the full game too.
right. Oh well, I mean, I watched the whole game anyway. So if I'm
Yeah.
there, I'm there because I live almost 6 hours away. So if I'm there, I'm there
Oh,
for.
yeah, you're there.
I have to say,
Sorry.
my sister yesterday sent a picture to me and my brothers and sisters of her and my nephew, because they were honoring my dad. My dad was a huge baseball fan. In fact, my dad ushered for the Milwaukee Brewers for over 25 years.
Oh,
Oh
that's
wow,
cool.
Mm-hmm.
very
So yeah,
cool.
so she was honoring him. She wore earrings for the Brewers, and he wore a Brewers shirt and stuff like that. And it was just really, I miss him tremendously,
Right,
especially
yeah,
during
of
baseball
course.
season.
Yeah.
So that's for you, Dad. And they won. They won 10-0. One of our guys, Terang, his first home run of the majors was a grand slam home run yesterday.
Oh
That's
wow, that's
awesome.
awesome.
That
That
is.
was your dad.
I love baseball.
Yeah. I love
All right,
baseball
well, I
like you like
guess.
basketball, Megan.
Okay, well, and for me, I know this is shocking for a lot of people because I live in, the Friday Night Lights area, but for me, it's basketball, baseball, football, so, and in that order. All right,
That's
well, I
because
guess
you're a
that does it
Cowboys
for us this
bandwagon.
week. Probably so. Like, I'll be honest. By the time November hits, I'm like, okay, let's talk about basketball. Right. Well, I guess that does it for us this week. Thank you guys so much for
Yes.
watching, sharing, and commenting. We appreciate you guys the same every week. And we will be back next week. If you have any topic ideas that you would like to touch on, feel free to hit up any of us. You can either leave a message on here on Messenger or hit us up privately, or you can go to our group, Three Chicks in a Pod, as well.
Yes.
All right. We'll be
Thanks,
back next week, guys.
ladies.
We missed you, Carrie. Have a good week, everybody.
Yes.